Hello friends, and welcome to the Hanged Man in the Moon. If this is your first time here, welcome. Thank you for coming. I'm pleased to meet you. If you've been here before, thank you for returning. I'm truly honored. Friends, if you are a returning visitor, you probably remember from last week that I am not in my regular space, and this is a summer camp for elementary and middle school students that I'm teaching, and I'm recording in my classroom in the middle of the woods. You probably also know that this is my series in which I use tarot and oracle cards to help me explore topics related to living the intentional life. And that's what we're here to do today. We're going to be talking about living intentionally, following the powerful current of our intention into the lives that we have already vibrationally, through imagination, imaginally created for ourselves. And today's topic is really interesting. It's based on and begins with the concept of abundance. How abundant do you feel you are? Do you feel abundance in your life at every moment of every day? Can you sense the abundance of this physical universe? If you said no, don't worry, it's okay. We all feel that way. This week is pointing to those times, I believe. And we're going to be reading this together, so the reading has not been accomplished yet, and still, I see in this spread a recognition that there are times when, though we are in an abundant universe, living lives of abundance, we don't we don't always feel the abundance that is there. We don't recognize the abundance that is there. And the spread is going to help perhaps direct us into a course of movement so that we can open ourselves to the power of intention. So friends, we've got a clear, very interesting, and perhaps even at times startlingly funny spread for us to look at. So what are we going to do? First, I'm going to show you the spread all in one piece, in one chunk, and we'll talk about it very briefly. And then I'm going to split it up into its 5 sections. There are 5 parts, and I'll talk about those 5 parts in just a moment, but let's see this whole spread right now. What do you think of this spread? Do you know the cards? Do you know the decks? All of these decks are created by the same creator, by Kelly Burton. She's a brilliant creator, and frankly, I'm generally not a big aficionado of collage decks, but Kelly Burton's work is phenomenal. And Kelly Burton's work has been a gateway drug, if you will, for me getting some of the more classic decks. For example, the Voyager deck. I decided to get the Voyager deck, and I'll probably be using that deck in the series within the next year. I also got the Ritual Tarot, which is another kind of super analog collage deck. So anyways, Kelly Burton's work, if you're interested in seeing the decks and the name of Kelly Burton, there will be a short clip at the end of this video that gives you that information. Also, in the description box below, there will be links, a link for you, a link, singular, to go take a look at Kelly Burton's work. All of her decks are, at the time of this video recording, available on her website. So there was a link to that down there. Okay, so here we are. You just saw the spread, and you probably very clearly saw the 5 parts. There's the central part, and then upper right, upper left, lower right. And that's the direction we're going to be reading this spread. Now the center is the current situation, where we are now, what we are feeling now. And the question I ask this spread every week is, how can we live our lives more intentionally in the coming week? So the first answer to that is, well, here's where we are. And it might give us some advice or some hints as to how we can better experience, better manifest ourselves in this reality at this time. And that choice of manifest ourselves, I think, is going to be important. Then, in the upper right, we've got a group of 3 cards that is going to show us the direction we are heading if we just leave everything alone. The section to the upper left is going to be the 3 cards that shows us the direction we might go if we intervene in our flow of movement at this time. And then in the lower left, we have a group of 3 cards that gives us the challenges to our direction, to our movement in the direction we want to be going in. And then the lower right-hand corner gives us some divine assistance, some help from spirit, however you want to call that, whether you call that Brahman, whether you call it higher self, whether you call it eternal nature, whether you call it universal consciousness, whether you call it Gaia, whether you call it the Divine Mother, whatever we call that consciousness that is constantly creating this physical universe. We're getting help, and that help shows up in those 3 cards. Okay, so that's how we're going to read the spread. Are you all ready? Are you all strapped in? Now, if you do, one more thing, if you do want to see a walkthrough of the spread itself using just one deck, I have that for you. I'll put a card up here for you to be able to jump on over and take a look at that whenever you want. But without further ado, let's look at the central section of this spread. Here it is. I haven't mentioned it yet, but each grouping of 3 cards has a card from 3 different decks. One, the central card, is from a deck which is loosely based on the Thoth Tarot. The card to the left is a deck based on the Smith-Waite deck. You know, Pamela Coleman Smith, Arthur Waite, their deck. And then the third card, which is on the right, is an oracle card. So we've got 2 tarot, 1 oracle. And that's the order that we're going to read these cards in, because the central card is the central message. The card to the left gives us a little bit of color to that central message, and then the card to the right adds a caboose. Okay, so are you ready? The central card you saw was the 10 of Pentacles, and that's why I decided that this spread is primarily about abundance and manifestation and our experience of our physical form in the physical universe. And we have here a beautiful rendition, a beautiful drawing of the 10 of Pentacles. Now you see the 10 pentacles, or the 10, they look like flowers to me, arranged in the shape of the tree of life. Yes, you see those? Do you see the 10? Do you see an 11th there? It is there. Now, if we look at and study the tree of life, we know that we are studying usually the fallen tree. There is the original tree of life, and then there, after the fall, the Sephirah that was in the place just under the first 3, under the supernal triangle, that one dropped. And as a result, the ones below it also dropped. So there's this place here, this spot, the void, which is sometimes called dot. And there's a vague, translucent image of a flower representing pentacle or coin or disc here, right? Do you see that? So we have the fallen tree, but we have a transparent, translucent flower in the place where the Sephirah that has dropped would have been. So we have in total 11-ish flowers here on the 10 of discs, of 10 of Pentacles. And you see at the bottom that the 10 of Pentacles is associated with Mercury in Virgo. Yeah? And Mercury in Virgo is a very happy thing. Yeah? Virgo is the domicile of Mercury, so from this card we have mutable Earth's vital attributes entering our world. And the title for this card is Wealth. Yeah? Creating a legacy to pass on. Transitions, ancestry, inheritance are all part of this card. I'm sorry, not transitions, traditions. Traditions and ancestry and inheritance are part of this card. And we see this beautiful bee behind the tree of life, yes? Very vibrant, vital-looking bee. Now, in the Thoth deck, often the 10 of Pentacles, the 10 of Discs is not seen as positively as the Ten of Pentacles is in a Smith-Waite deck. Now for Crowley and Harris and the Thoth deck, the 10 is the very, very bottom of the very, very bottom tree of life. Now there are 4 trees of life. There's the fire tree, there's the water tree, there's the air tree, and then at the very bottom there's the earth tree. And the very bottom of the bottom earth tree is Malkut, which is this card. That's Malkut in the earth tree of the trees of life. And as such, this is where all of the sediment of the energy that is manifesting into the physical universe settles. Now, all the sediment of all the paths of all the sephira of the tree of life has settled, and there's potential here for stagnation, according to Crowley. Now, all of that wealth, all of whatever level of wealth that is for you, your level of wealth, my level of wealth, Bill Gates' level of wealth, all of our levels of wealth are quite different. But they can still be burdensome and stagnant, whatever level, however we quantify that wealth or that abundance. So here, Crowley especially wants us to recognize the potential for stagnation here at the bottom with all of that sediment all gathered together. The card at the bottom of the tree of manifestation has a lot of heavy lifting to do too. It has to get ready to reincarnate afresh at the top of the trees of life. Now, it has to move from the bottom all the way up to the first place of Keter in the fire tree, which means the Ace of Wands. It has to be ready to and have the power to lift itself up back to the top, to the Ace of Wands. So here, there's a call for Mercury to perform his, her, their magic, to regenerate the world. So there's abundance here. There's wealth, there's tradition, but there's also, again, the potential for stagnation and the need for a lot of energy to be able to lift this back up to the top of the first tree of life, to regenerate the material world. Does that make sense? And Mercury in Virgo is capable of doing that. Yeah? Mercury in Virgo is master of the physical. This is mature Mercury. This is Mercury, who was a little bit flighty in Gemini, is now here in Virgo and has mastery of his, her, their potentials and can perform the magic of ascension. And so we have that potential here, but we're not there yet. We're here at the bottom with a lot of good stuff. But again, a potential of inertia, which we don't want, because we've now come to the bottom, we've settled, we've stopped moving. And how is this being shaded? How is this being colored? It's being colored by a very interesting card from the Smith-Waite deck. Now the Five of Pentacles. You see this bee out in the perhaps cold. You see the stained glass window behind the bee. In the Smith-Waite deck, you recall we have these two figures, very poorly dressed. Now, their limbs are, the limbs of one of the characters is bare, bandaged, walking with a cane. The other figure is hunched over. They're walking through the night in the snow, and they look very cold, they look very destitute. And they're walking past what looks like it is a very wealthy cathedral. And here, instead, we do have the stained glass window in the back. Now we have a bee, perhaps outside, but do you notice all of that pollen on that bee's legs? So, we still have the idea in the Five of Pentacles of feeling displaced or worried, out in the cold in this deck according to the Creator. We have the potential for missing opportunities for relief as well. Now, we could duck inside of that church and find a warm place of shelter. So there's the potential for missing the opportunities. It could be financial loss, poverty, lack, a lackful mindset, isolation, hardships and privation. All of these are potentials for the Five of Pentacles in this deck as well. But the bee is still a bee, and the bee will continue to work despite the sense of limited resources. And yet, again, I want to point out that pollen on the bee's legs. This bee is full of potential here, and yet is feeling and has manifested that stuck in the cold sense for itself. So these two cards together, well, not these two cards, these two cards together give me the sense that we have riches around us. And yes, we're being called to gather our energy up, to perform the magic, to lift ourselves back up to the top of the trees of life. Again, I emphasize trees of life, not a singular tree, but 4 levels of trees, 4 worlds of trees. And yet, we are here. That is colored by our feeling of displacement, being worried, being out in the cold. Even though we've got the stuff, maybe we see people with more. Maybe we see that there are still things that we want that have not arrived yet. And though we have a lot in our lives now, that sense of things lacking is doing 2 things. One, it's distracting us from the wealth, the inheritance, the traditions, the potential that we are living within. And it's pushing off the possibility that those things that we have created vibrationally and have placed on the powerful current of our intention, we're pushing those things away. We're blocking the path for us moving in their direction and them coming towards us because of our vibrational creation of lack from our mental, emotional attitudes. Now, that attitude of I lack creates more lack. And even though we do have the resources around us, our perception of lack continues to hinder us. Have you ever felt like that? Have you ever realized that about other people? Have you realized that as being the case for yourself? We may be finding ourselves in that place this week, which is not a bad thing, especially if we can keep tabs on it. If we can notice when we start feeling lack of time, of energy, of financial resources, of the things that we want not appearing in our lives, or seemingly not to appear in our lives. And the card that's paired with these two, the card that accompanies these two, is a very interesting card. This is a card that we got last week, if you recall. This is the breakthrough card from the Oracle deck. You see this bee breaking through a sheet or a mirror of glass. And this is from the suit of air. And I'm playing with reading elemental dignities, starting now. And air and earth ain't friends. Yeah? Fire and water are practically enemies, and in similar vein, air and earth are practically enemies. They fight with each other. They don't get along. So what does that mean? Well, first, let's look at this beautiful card. I love the color of this card. The bee bursting through what looks to me like a window, perhaps, a crystal window, or maybe a mirror. And it's an indication of sudden change that can be messy, but we're asked to allow for time to process, and we can clean up later. That breakthrough will create some disturbance, but don't focus on the disturbance now. Clean it up later. Process the breakthrough that is happening now. Now, it's a catharsis. It's a release from things that have been holding us back. It's a feeling experience that can be a leap of consciousness of growth. We're on the verge of it, or we're on the verge of a breakthrough. Maybe it hasn't happened yet. So don't stop going now, because we're on the verge of a breakthrough. So if it's happened, don't worry about cleaning it up yet. Now's the time to process. If it hasn't happened yet, it's time to keep going until it will happen, because the breakthrough is a-coming. Stay on course. And breaking through this mirror or this crystal window will reveal the truth for us, which is wonderful, which is beautiful. And yet, this card and these two cards are not friends. So what does that mean? That means that this is potential for us, but for some reason, we're not allowing this to happen. We're sitting here in the midst of our whatever category of abundance we have in our material existence, and our feelings of lack, of missed opportunities for relief, of the need to continue working and working and working with limited and depleting resources. That is preventing us from this, the breakthrough, which is a breakthrough we want to be able to move from the bottom of all the trees of life back up to the top. Not saying that the top is better than the bottom in trees of life, but freezing in the muck of stagnation is not what we want for ourselves. Yeah? We want to continue the cycle and then move from the top all the way down through until we get to the bottom and then move our way back up, right? Which is a kind of breakthrough. Breakthrough. But we're not able to access this because of, primarily, this, I believe. Now, this breakthrough is being hindered by our Five of Pentacles, our feelings of lack, our feelings of being displaced, by our feelings of poverty, of isolation, of privation, of not getting what we want, of the things that we think we've created, and we have created vibrationally for our lives. They're not a-coming, and we're starting to, where the heck are they? Have you ever felt that? I know I have, frequently. But that's what is preventing us from this. But don't worry. This is not the end of the reading. We got more coming. So the next step for us to read is going to be what? We're going to move into, okay, we've got this now. We've got this now. Where are we heading? Where are we heading? What is our current trajectory? If we just leave it alone, where are we going to go? And this is going to be very interesting, so come along with me. Here are those three cards. Those were the three cards from the set of cards that indicates where we are headed if we stay the course. And it's very interesting, right? Remember, in the three cards we started off with, we had an air card, which seemed to be a message or the indication that we are resisting our breakthrough. We're resisting something in the area of air. And we moved from those two earth cards with a resistance to air up into air cards, right? We're moving into the direction of this beautiful, beautiful root of the powers of air, otherwise known as the Ace of Swords. And it's a gorgeous card. We have a sacred geometrical figure there in the background. We have a bee that looks like it's pierced by this one sword, right? And being the Ace of Swords in this deck, it is the essence of all of the air signs, all gathered together in one. So there's not a specific association here, but we do have Gemini, we have Libra, and we have Aquarius. Essentially, here in this card, with all of their planets and all of their beauty and all of the wonders and amazement and glory of mind. And yes, I do say amazement and glory and wonder of mind. A lot of tarot decks point to the suit of swords and mind and say that's where our trouble comes and that's where our pain comes and this is the dark side of the human experience. And yes, there are parts of our experience of mind that are definitely detrimental to ourselves and others, certainly. But just as every card has both a positive and a negative side to it, every suit has both light and dark. And the swords are not all dark. I would venture to say that there is an equal amount of light in the mind as well. And I think especially this card points to the brightest light of the sword suit. And according to many sources, especially in the Thoth tradition, the Ace of Swords points to the essence of the Vav of the Tetragrammaton. Tetragrammaton. That's the word. The four-letter unpronounceable name of God. Yod He Vav He. Which is why I say, when I talk about the four trees of life, the first tree, the top tree, represents Yod, which is fire, and is the masculine of the masculine feminine. And I put that in quotes because I personally don't quite ascribe to masculine feminine in the way that they have been indicated in the past. Because masculine is so attached to the word male, in English especially, that I don't think all males are masculine and all females are feminine. Personally, I think we need to disassociate those. Now, the characteristics that were traditionally thought of as masculine are part of this letter of the Tetragrammaton, are part of the first letter of the Tetragrammaton, the Yod. But there are women Yods and there are men Yods and there are intersex Yods. That has nothing to do with physical manifestation in the world, whether we're in a male body, a female body, a transgender body, a cis body, an intersex body, whatever, right? That's not important. What is important is that there's a scale of ways of thinking. There's a spectrum of ways of thinking, a spectrum of ways of being in the world that are receptive and active, that are hot and cold is not bad and hot is not good. They're different. And so, on that more active side, the more yin side, the more yang side of the yin-yang, yang, we have the first letter of the Tetragrammaton being Yod, which is fire. And then right next to it is this first He, which would be the other side of the spectrum, the receptive, the yin, the very traditionally considered feminine, but I'm just saying that for the understanding of a lot of people, but I would not think of it as feminine because I don't like that word either, yeah? Because it's so associated with the female, feminine. I think we can find different and better words, but that's me. That's my thing. So the first He is that other side. The third letter is Vav. The second letter, the first He, I'm being super confusing, aren't I? First letter, Yod, fire. Second letter, He, water. Third letter, Vav, air. The second Yang, the second yang, yin yang, the second active one, is the air. And then the third is perhaps androgyne according to some people, but some people would say the third is more on the receptive side. But that's the earth. And so this is the Vav, which is right above the bottom. The air is right above the earth in the stacking of the trees of life. And so this is the essence of that Vav, of that second active principle of the divine. The truth and awareness are part of this. The birth of an idea. the spark of intellect and understanding, the spark of realization. Wonderful things, right? It's also the sword in the hand of the Magus, the sword that lifts to pierce the veil of separation between spirit and matter, of being able to then draw in from spirit into material manifestation. It's the pure light of the swords. And it can be the sword of justice, upholding divine authority, and or the sword of wrath and punishment. It's a double-edged sword, just like a lot of our ideas, just like a lot of justice can be both positive and negative. Positive being uplifting, upholding, correcting, or punitive and destructive. And so we want to be very careful of how we use that sword. Does that make sense to you? Have you experienced that? Have you experienced that justice can sometimes uplift those who have been oppressed or hurt, but can also be used in a very destructive way to punish and extract punitive damages and to get revenge on other people? And I would posit that using justice to uplift those who have been pushed down is the work of the divine. I would also posit that the use of justice as a weapon against other people, to hurt people, to extract justice, to get the eye for the eye, while it is supported in biblical text, I do not think that is the way the divine wants us to work. We can uplift one group without having to step on or rip out the entrails of the other. Now, perhaps in our upliftment of one group, another group will say, hey, wait a minute, what about us? We now feel damaged. Well, that's their problem. We're not extracting justice from them in that sense. But if instead we go out and try to actively create harm on those people because they've harmed other people. But if we try actively extract pain and extract revenge from them, then we're doing something else. And so, because of that, I think this card especially is telling us to be careful of those ideas. Those ideas could be used, whatever the idea is, for good or for ill. And so, I still hold this as a beautiful card of light and enlightenment. The seed of enlightenment. Not the fulfillment, but the seed of enlightenment. And this card is accompanied by another beautiful card. Yeah? From a very Smith-Waite deck. From a very Smith-Waite based deck, you see this beautiful card of a boat person on a boat that looks like a honeycomb, moving over the waters with 6 swords stuck in it. And you see at the top there's a flower, and behind the flower there's this radiant sun. So this boat is moving in the direction of the light. Very similar to the card that was drawn by Pamela Coleman Smith, right? We don't see the other figures in the boat. Instead, in the boat we see honey and we see bees. Perfect for this beautiful deck, the keeper of the sacred bee. And so, this is a lovely card. Crisis over. Now we've passed through the crisis and it's time to move on. We're traveling toward calmer waters. Same ideas in this deck as with Pamela Coleman Smith's deck. Also, Pamela Coleman Smith and Arthur Waite, can't forget him. Also, it's okay to let someone else steer the boat for a while, according to the creator of this deck. Yes, we're moving on. And you know what? We don't have to take control. We can let somebody else drive the car for a while because maybe we're not in condition. We've been through a crisis. Maybe letting someone else steer the boat for a while will be of benefit for us so that we can do the healing work. Now, because this is also the card of the journey of healing that is laid before us. Transitions, change, rites of passage. releasing the baggage of the past and carrying the beneficial ideas and thoughts and realizations forward, those 6 swords, forward with us into the light of the sun. And that's what's coloring this Ace of Swords. Wonderful. Yeah, that's a recognition of that breakthrough that we might have been resisting right now, but we get there. Even if we don't do anything, we're going to get there according to this spread. And we want to be careful of how we use the idea, what we do with our breakthrough. Maybe as we do the work of healing or the work of realization from the breakthrough, we might cause some disruption. We might have some shattered glass around us, but it's not time for us to clean it up yet. Maybe the driver of the boat can do the cleaning up for us. Or we just allow ourselves to move forward with the guidance of the boat's person and then do the cleanup later. So we got these beautiful 2 cards together. And what do we have accompanying them? Yet another Earth card. Yep, they're in a fight again. Earth and air don't like each other very much in the dignities of the elements. So we have this wonderful card here. This breakthrough has so much potential. And yet, not in right relationship is our abundance. Now, this is the abundance card. We have this beautiful, radiant pink flower here. We've got a bee right there in the center. This is an earth card. And according to the guidebook, it's giving and receiving to create abundance. Abundance includes the ability to share. Giving with no expectation attracts abundance into our lives. And we can feel worthy of receiving and gratitude in giving back. We can feel gratitude for giving in this card. When we can give thanks as well. I give you my resources and I give my thanks. To the divine, to you for receiving, all of that. And yet, these cards are not in a right relationship. They're not in a happy relationship. So we get the breakthrough. But still, our sense of abundance is somehow in opposition with the direction we're moving in. Now, we had abundance that was colored by our sense of destitution, of lack of resources, of lack of what we perhaps want. And here again, that abundance is still possible, but for some reason, we're still not allowing it. Our breakthrough has not broken through that thing which has blocked us from the beginning. Now the dragging down of the 10 of Pentacles by the 5 of Pentacles. Does that make sense? So we're headed in a good direction, and yet there's still conflict there. Not conflict between us and other, although that could be possible, but not especially conflict between us and other, but conflict, internal conflict with our breakthrough, and then, but still, where's my abundance? Because we haven't accepted it yet. Can that make sense for you? So friends, we have another choice. There's another path for us to go on. Let's see if it's better or worse. That's possible. The next path, if we step in and intervene in the course we are taking now, maybe that path is worse. It can happen. Let's take a look. Here are those 3 cards now. If we change course, what direction could we possibly move in? You saw those 3 cards, and you saw that at the center, we could move in the direction of, and this is the primary card, the core message, we could move in the direction of the world. How amazing is that? Now, this is the world card from the Journey of the Sacred Bee, and you can see that it is associated with the element of earth. So we go from earth to another earth card instead of earth to air. Yeah, we've got earth here. And you can see that it's also associated with Tav, which is the Hebrew letter, which is a symbol for a cross, a mark, like an X marks the spot kind of mark. It's humankind's ultimate destination. But it's a completion, but it's a completion before the beginning again. Yeah, it's the movement from Tav to, again, Aleph. And as a rune in the Futhark system, the Elder Futhark system, we have the rune of Ingwaz, which kind of looks like a diamond. And this is Ingwaz, the great god Ing, yeah, who is an earth god. So perfect for this card, yeah, associated with earth, the earth god. The god of Ing is fertility. It's also retreat and growth. There's that push and push, retreat and then growth, retreat and then growth. The cycles, perhaps, of fertility and creation. Perfect for the world card, don't you think? And according to the guidebook, the card, this beautiful card, you see the bee there above this huge patch of sunflowers and this very sacred geometrical figure disc above the bee, the world, offering itself to the bee. And here we have the cycle continues. It goes back to the beginning, according to the guidebook. There's a realization of the accomplishments of the journey thus far. We recognize we've come this far, baby, and here we are. A little celebratory toast for us, you know? And we can carry our experiences forward with ease and with grace as we move back into the beginning of a new journey. Self-actualization is here too. Yeah? We can fulfill the potential. We recognize that we are fulfilling the potential that we have had since the beginning. And understanding the connections to all other beings in the universe, because we're not here alone. This is a co-creative experience. Yeah? We know we all evolve and emerge at our own pace, and we're connected to everybody, and now we're here. We know that other people aren't here yet, but we're still connected, and yet, yay for us. And we're ready to move back into the beginning of a new cycle, of a new stage of our evolution, Yeah, that's the ticket. And we've manifested into Earth, and we recognize our potential, and we're self-actualizing, and all wonderful, and we're ready to move forward. So this is where we can move from that 10 of Wands, which has been blocked by our own perception. We can move into the world, so a couple ideas right here. Yeah, the 10 is that culmination of the drop into material, the formation of the material, of all of that, all of those resources, the potentials have been realized. We have inheritance, we've got traditions, all of that. In the major arcana, this is the similar card to that, right? But this is the fullness of that. This is the fullness of that 10 of discs, of 10 of pentacles. And this card is being colored by yet another major arcana card, which is wonderful, right? The Hermit, beautiful card. Very Smith-Waite-ish. Yeah? We've got the Hermit in the robes standing on top of a mountain. We've got bees around the Hermit standing on the cold on top of a mountain, which is unusual, but still, we've got a Hermit up there holding a staff, holding a light. Yeah? The light has a sacred geometrical form in there. It looks kind of like a Merkaba. And the face of the Hermit is the honeycomb. And in this deck, the Hermit is associated with Virgo. Remember, we got that echo of Virgo and Mercury right here again, which is mutable Earth's vital attributes entering our world, entering our natal charts, entering the question we're asking of the Tarot, which is how can we live our lives more intentionally? And according to the tradition of this system of tarot, this is also a reflection of the Hebrew letter Yod, which is the first one, which is the first, which is the hand, the creative hand of creation. It's also the rune Naudis, which is desire, which can be a desire in the negative sense. And yet, it's the desire, the need that causes innovation. Now, you know how they say that necessity is the mother of invention? It's that kind of necessity, it's that kind of need that leads to innovation. It's disruption and the desire to overcome that disruption. So it's got both sides here, the yin and the yang, the happy and the sad, but the sad which creates the happy. And according to the guidebook, the hermit here is going within, which allows clarity and self-awareness. Wisdom. Wisdom gained and holding the lantern up for others to be able to follow and to see the wisdom which is there. It's like St. Francis would say, preach the gospel and when necessary, use words. Because you are the light. You are the light which is guiding others into the light. Now there's a paradox here. There's a paradoxical wisdom to going deep within in order to climb the highest mountain. Now, the wisdom is gained by looking within to perceive the heights to which we ascend. And yet we have Virgo here, which is not a bad thing. My mother's a Virgo, but still we have Virgo here, which gives us our tenacity and allows us to arrive where we are by that ability to organize things and to put things in their place and to be tenacious about moving in the direction and checking off all the boxes and going forward. And Mercury here is helping us to do the soul searching, the introspection, and allowing us to be alone in order to do the work. Virgo can do it alone. Is happy doing it on their own. We have inner guidance. We have wisdom. Now we have mentorship here as well. We're able to be mentors by holding the light of self up for the perception of others, so others can see who we are and we can be an example, an exemplar for them. So this is what's coloring the world here. Now, we reach this world stage and we recognize that we have looked within and done the work of self-actualization, and now we can hold that inner self up for others to perceive, perhaps follow. And it's our tenacity that has gotten us this far, and it's our tenacity that is going to allow us to move to the next cycle. So these two cards together show a very ripe potential. But remember, in the first two sets of cards, the third card has been an elemental challenge. What's the third card for us here? We've got Earth in the world, we've got Earth with Virgo and Mercury, and the last coloration here, the third card is Earth, manifestation. This is a happy trinity, yeah? So we do that, we change our course. And we're changing it away from what felt kind of good with that breakthrough, right? With that Ace of Swords and the Six of Swords, getting us past everything that we feel that we've been going through. We've adjusted our course intentionally, deliberately. And we can arrive here at the world, recognizing that we have accomplished, we have become to some extent. We haven't become and here, I'm the best, and now you have to follow me because that's not what we're talking about here, right? We have achieved thus far, and what we have achieved thus far is worthy of other people looking at and appreciating, and not to give us applause, but rather to use as an example for themselves. And from this state, we can do this thing, which is manifestation, which is what we wanted in the first place. Now, this card represents the gap between the creator and the created. And that is where the magic happens. It's harnessing our gifts and our resources to manifest something that brings happiness, passion, and stable foundation. It's focusing on our intentions and knowing how to accept the consequences when we do manifest. Have you ever thought it? I want that thing. I want to experience that thing. I want to meet that person. I want to do that. And you manifest that, and then you think, holy crap, what did I manifest? Have you ever experienced that? Well, here we are willing and able to accept the consequences of those manifestations. There are things that we didn't realize that they were carrying. Some manifestations, I won't say a lot, some manifestations carry baggage with them, right? So we're able to accept those consequences whether we knew they were coming or not. Because we got the manifestation. We did the magic, and that's enough. That's what we're here for. And those things that were, or our baggage and things that we are given the chance to accept the consequences of, those things will help us grow too. And we're off on our races for our next cycle of life. It's a beautiful card of manifestation. See all that color in this. So this is the direction I think that we want to go in. Now, of course, if we keep our hands off, we've been going into a fairly good direction, but we would still be pushing off our potential abundance. And if we course correct, we go in a slightly different direction, we arrive at manifestation. The world. And are being the leaders that we were born to be. Sounds pretty good, doesn't it? Now, this path also, actually both paths, come with a challenge. With a challenge. Full stop. So, friends, we have 3 cards that represent that challenge. Now, is this challenge going to be a challenge of something that we want to strive for, a mountain we want to climb, or is it a challenge of something that is going to be a barricade, a block to our movement forward? Let's take a look at those 3 cards. Did those 3 cards make you laugh? These 3 cards cracked me up. Cracked me up no end. Do you know why? Did you recognize that? Well, because the 2 cards that came out of the tarot deck were the same damn card, right? We got the 5 of Cups twice in one set of 3 cards. And when I lay out the spread, what do? I lay out all of one deck. So I lay out the first card, the card that moves us in the direction of where we're going if we just stay the course. Then I lay the card that gives us the alternate direction if we course correct. And then I lay out one card from the same deck that gives us the challenges and then the divine or spiritual assistance. And then I move on to the next deck. And then I go through those 5 positions again. So this is, you can't make this shit up, as they say. Yeah? 2 5s of Cups, right in the same position for this spread. And so this is the challenges spot. And I don't think this challenge is the kind of challenge that we want to strive for. I think this is something that is standing in our way. And it kind of echoes that 5 of Pentacles card from the center of the spread. And these two fives, the fives of cups. And you see this vulture here looking at these cups in this Thoth-inspired deck. Yeah? We see bees. We do see bees and a honeycomb, but in front of that we've got the vulture, and there are 2 cups that have been spilled and 3 cups that look like they're standing. Well, 1 cup has been inverted. Okay, so there are 2 cups that are definitely spilled, 1 cup in the center of 2 other cups which has been overturned, but 2 upright cups, very similar to Pamela Coleman Smith's art in a sense. You know, we got some spilled cups and some upright, right? And at the very bottom, you can see that we have Scorpio and Mars, because Scorpio is the domicile of Mars, from which fixed water's vital attributes enter our world. Now we got Mars in Virgo. Mars in Scorpio. Scorpio is my ascending sign, just so you know. And gotta tell you, the Thoth deck and the Smith-Waite deck, the Crowley-Harris and the Smith-Waite deck, they both have a very poor view of Scorpio and the planet Mars therein, I think, because I like my ascendant sign. I like being a Scorpio. I like Mars being there. But they point to all of the really nasty negative stuff. And so we have that here in the 5 of Cups. Yeah? Disappointment, death, or the end of pleasure. That's what's standing in our way. Yeah? A sense of being cloaked in grief or sadness, feeling loss. Even though love is still there, we can feel loss here. This is an emotional card, right? The cup is half empty rather than half full. It's the pessimist's card, according to the creators of the deck. Sorrow and loss from where pleasure was expected. We were expecting good stuff, these cups. We were expecting good stuff to be in these cups, and yet it wasn't. And so we're called to a shift of perspective, if at all possible. And I guess that one little element could be the challenge of something to achieve, but we got a lot standing in our way. And that really does very clearly echo the 5 of Pentacles in the center of the spread, right? Those feelings of loss, of being left out in the cold. And here, disappointment, cloaked in grief or sadness, feeling loss. Even though there's love there, you feel loss. And that redness here is an echo of Mars, I believe, you right? And then coloring the 5 of Cups card was yet another 5 of Cups card, very reminiscent of the Smith-Waite deck, of Pamela Coleman Smith's art. You see the figure head bent down. We see how many cards are upright? 2 cards upright, 3 spilled over. And this also points to the Mars in Scorpio, the first decade of Scorpio, right? Cool. And again, regret, failure, disappointment, pessimism, loss, mourning, all those wonderful attributes that people give to Scorpios. We are not that way all of the time. But still, it's a necessary time of grief after loss, according to the creator of this deck. Devastated, but on the road to recovery. I mean, there is potential here. We need to process. We need to process some shit. But still, the challenge right now is that 5-ness of both the Pentacles and the Cups, of the receptive suits, of our feelings of loss, which are standing in the way of our movement into the world, of our new movement into the new idea, depending on which path we want to take, of our realization of our manifestation. This feeling of disappointment is what's blocking our path. So what do we have here to accompany these 2 very, very sad modeling cards? We've got optimism, which could be a good thing, right? But hey, there's optimism, and yet Elemental Dignity. Elemental Dignity tells us that the optimism card here is in the fire suit. Fire and water in elemental dignities do not mix. They are just as, if not more, enemies as earth and air. So, we are here, and so this is not right now possible. They're fighting. Our optimism, which could be that positive challenge, is being challenged by the Five of Cups. Doubled. Now the double whammy Five of Cups is blocking this path, is blocking this potential. So what is this optimism card according to this deck? Optimism is an indication of inner balance. Now, walking the path. The one of optimism is the one who becomes the leader. Kind of like the hermit who holds the lantern up. The optimistic hermit, potential. Making conscious intention to notice the beauty and connection to all things. Remember, we had that idea in the abundance card, the connection to all things. We also have that in the world card, the connection to all things. That's possible, but this is being blocked again by those two Five Cups. So we have the potential to notice naturally occurring positive behaviors in nature that promote our strength and the life force that is all around us, and yet we can't do that because we are here. That is the challenge to our movement forward. Does that make sense? Doesn't this make absolute sense to you? Friends, we have 3 more cards to look at, which is, please help me, the divine or spiritual help that is available to us or is being offered to us. So friends, let's take a look at those 3 cards right now. Friends, if you could imagine how much that previous set of 3 cards made me laugh, this next set of 3 cards that you just saw made me bust a gut. Because the decks did it again, right? The previous 3, we had the 2 Five of Cups. In this set, we had 2 judgment cards from the tarot. Right out there. Our help is judgment. Now remember, it's not judgment like, you're a bad person, or that kind of judgment. Right? This judgment card from these decks is the kind of judgment like the last judgment, the call, the rise from the depths. And here we have the first card, the first judgment card from the Thoth-inspired deck to me, and you see this bee arising from the poppy. Looks like a poppy to me. And you see at the top, we have the element of air. Remember, we were moving in the direction of air. If we keep our hands off of things, we're moving in the direction of air, but not a fulfillment of air, because our abundance is in tension, it's in conflict. But here, the air might be a little bit more open, more freer to fly. And you see the Hebrew letter Shin. Yes? Shin. It looks like a W a little bit, maybe. And it's the letter for tooth or teeth. And it's the teeth that are able to bite and hold on for dear life. Yeah? This is steadfastness and faith. And the actions of one who is careful with what they're doing in the world. Shin is also strength. The strength of our faith, the strength of our changelessness in the eyes of God. Or it's also the change for the good. Yeah? We can move towards the good, or we can stay in the good. That's what this card is. That is what the letter Shin is pointing us towards. It's also pointing us towards the rune Laguz, which means lake or water. And that is like the waters of healing. It's the and the waters of energy and renewal and regeneration. Appropriate for the Judgment card, I believe, where the angel is blowing their horn and we are rising from the graves. We are regenerated. We are renewed. The goose is also for dreams, positive and more fantastical. The unknown or the hidden is indicated by the Laguz as well. So all these, this and that, yeah? Dreams, the good stuff like, oh, I dream of this, and there's also the dreams of fantasies, of things that are fantastical in the negative sense. Not fantasy like a fantasy movie, but fantastical like something that is often indicated by the moon card. You know? Where you've got both happy dreams and dreams that are senseless, useless, and distracting. So for this card in this deck, we have associations of acceptance of all things, allows for our evolution, welcoming transformation, and leaving judgment of the past behind. Just like this bee is here, rising up from the very emperor. Poppies remind me of the Emperor card. Probably because of a specific deck. A deck that I call my soul deck. What is the name of the deck? It is the Spacious Tarot. And for the Emperor card, they have rows of poppies. Very human cultivated rows of poppies. And so I see a poppy, I think the Emperor. Also red is the color of Mars, which is associated with the Emperor in many decks. All of those things. But here we have acceptance of all things, allowing for our evolution, our transformation, leaving judgment of the past behind, I just mentioned that. Awakening, taking responsibility for our past actions, and then awakening to who we are, where we are, and what we are becoming. And we want to accept the implications that come with resurrection. A lot of us think, so some of us think of judgment as you're going to jail or worse, right? You're going to get punished for your evil actions. Some of us think of judgment as the call to rise to heaven, the wakening up from death, the release of death into the ethereal realms. But there's another way of calling, right? The call to action, the call to becoming, and all of the implications that resurrection, not necessarily from death, but from our former selves into our newer selves, that resurrection can have challenges, can have problems, can have difficulties, and perhaps even just a tinge of the negative sense of judgment. Yeah? Who we are becoming, we're not used to it, other people are not used to it. We might get judged for that. And yet we are called to take a definitive step, to make a decision, to move forward, to follow the call. A very airy call, particularly in the Harris Crowley deck and in this deck as well. And that card is being colored by and modified by yet another judgment card, which is more like, I can't even say it's equal. Okay, so no, it's not really like the Smith-Waite and it's not like Marseille. This, we have a big old stained glass window, right? And we see these bees rising up towards the heavens. And it looks like maybe there's a bee up in the stained glass window that might be calling to them. Now, do you see this bee here? It's kind of an outline of a bee, an etheric bee perhaps, calling these other bees up perhaps in front of a stained glass window. So the creator of this deck indicates things like shedding personality and extending beyond the current intelligence. We're taking a move into the new. Yeah? regenerated personality. Not the rising from the dead, but the rising from our old selves. Speaking of old, we also have old manifestations of sacred havens that are no longer necessary here. We don't need to hide out anymore because we're ready to move forward. My light is starting to die on me. I hope you can see me. So we can leave that which we have carried with us behind and move forward, move on, rebirth, awakening, the inner calling moving us forward and letting the past go. So we've got this double whammy judgment here, this spiritual realization and reformation of self into the new. And again, letting the past go. And the deck created by Harris and Crowley called it the Aeon card, the Eon card, the changing of times. Right, from the old into the new. And those two cards are accompanied by this card, which is Taurus. Do you know Taurus? Do you know what that means? It's a shape that looks kind of like a donut. If you think of the magnetic field around the Earth, without the interference of solar radiation, which pushes things out of its potential perfection, the magnetic field could look like a donut. Now, if the solar winds weren't blowing it and extending the back part of the donut out into the opposite direction, we'd have a nice little donut shape around the Earth where there's the North Pole, the South Pole, and electrons go this way and then come, or actually probably go this way and come back down, and then go this way and come back down. It's a cycling of energy, but creating the shape of a donut. Can you see that here in this card? So this is an ether card, which is not earth, so it doesn't fight with air. It's not fire, so it's not palsy with air. But I think ether gets along pretty well with air. Ether, spirit. And being the divine help, the help of spirit, having a spirit card as the last card seems appropriate. So this ether card reminds us that when we're feeling out of balance, when external energy is probably also out of balance, and we feel out of balance within, and we feel that the energy of our environment is out of balance, we're asked to notice the energy flow around us. And maybe our inner state of imbalance might be a reflection of what we're noticing out there, or what we're noticing out there could be a reflection of what we're feeling in here. And so we're asked to here cleanse the air energy patterns internally and externally. So if we need to fix things in our environment, take stuff out of our environment, clean it up, do that. Our inner space, our mental space, clean it up, do that. Breath work can help. Breath, spirit, spiritus, spirit, numen, spirit, the numinous, ether, breath, can help balance out the energy externally and internally. And we want to check the movement of thought and any negative patterns that there are. And if we can do that, it will be very beneficial for us. So that is the divine help here. It's the call to become who we're already ready to become. And in order to do that, we might want to do a little bit of cleanup of our energy, which is the energy of those 5 cups and those 5 pentacles, which are the lack of recognition of the abundance that is here, the lack of recognition of the love that is here, and the sense of disappointment and lack and being out in the cold and lacking the resources and being destitute and being disappointed and all of that stuff. Clean it up. Clean it up because the call is here. Because the call is here. The call has been here all along. The call to clean it up. for manifestation. Maybe that's the title of this video. The call to clean it up for manifestation. Maybe. We'll get there somewhere. So friends, what do you think? Does that make sense to you? If it does, let me know in the comments below. If it does not, let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you. And friends, hit the thumbs up button so that YouTube knows that you got something out of it. It draws people to the channel. Subscribe if you haven't subscribed, and hit the alarm bell so you get notifications of when I upload videos. Also, comment below. I would really love to hear from you. If you want to get a private reading from me, my email address is below. thehangedmaninthemoon@gmail.com. Shoot me an email. We'll get you a reading. Whatever you want. Whatever style, however long, however short, it's your choice. And friends, as we sit here and we recognize how we might be able to clean it up and allow our abundance and manifestation to occur and be realized, and our own manifestation and fulfillment to be recognized and achieved, in all of that, I wish you love, joy, well-being, and pure awareness. Thank you.